Have you ever wondered how the very first humans managed to stay alive? Imagine waking up in a world with no walls. No locked doors, no police, no soldiers, and certainly no bodyguards. Every sound in the darkness could mean death. Every shadow could hide a predator. Even finding food could turn into a fight for survival. Today, powerful people travel with security teams. Leaders are surrounded by guards. Celebrities hire professionals to protect them. But the first humans had absolutely no one standing between them and danger. So how did they survive long enough to build civilizations? The answer is far more surprising than most people realize. Around 2 million years ago, early humans did not live at the top of the food chain. In fact, they were often hunted by other animals. Giant cats, packs of wolves, hyenas, crocodiles, snakes, and enormous birds of prey all shared the same world. Unlike lions, humans had no sharp claws. Unlike bears, they had no incredible strength. Unlike cheetahs, they could not run fast. Even their teeth were too small to tear through thick skin. If you looked at an early human standing beside most predators, you would probably think the human had no chance of surviving. And yet, humans survived while many of those terrifying predators eventually disappeared. Why? The biggest mistake people make is imagining ancient humans as fearless warriors, carrying powerful weapons. The reality was very different. Most early humans were physically weaker than many of the animals around them. A single large predator could easily overpower one person. That is why walking alone was one of the most dangerous things anyone could do. For ancient humans, loneliness often meant death. Instead of relying on one powerful protector, humans discovered something much more effective. They relied on each other. Long before kingdoms, armies, or bodyguards existed, small groups became humanity's greatest defense. These groups usually consisted of families and close relatives who traveled, hunted, and slept together. While one person rested, another stayed awake. While some searched for food, others watched for danger. Every member had a role. If someone spotted a predator, they didn't fight it alone. They shouted. They pointed. They warned everyone else. That simple act of sharing danger gave humans an incredible advantage. A lion may be stronger than one person, but facing 10 alert humans was a completely different challenge. This wasn't because humans were stronger. It was because humans communicated. Many predators depend on surprise. If the prey notices them too early, the attack often fails. Early humans slowly learned to recognize footprints, broken branches, strange smells, and unusual animal sounds. Their survival depended on paying attention to details that modern people rarely notice. Every day became a lesson. Every mistake carried a price. Children learned these skills by watching adults. Knowledge wasn't written in books. It was passed from one generation to the next through observation and experience. Over thousands of years, these survival lessons became part of human culture. But there was still a huge problem. Even if humans could warn each other, they still had almost nothing to defend themselves with. No metal weapons, no armor, no shields, no castles. So what changed? How did these fragile creatures eventually become powerful, enough that almost every predator on Earth started fearing them instead? The answer began with one of the greatest inventions in human history. Not the sword, not the bow, and not even fire. It began with something much simpler that completely changed the balance between humans and every dangerous animal they faced. That simple invention was the spear. At first glance, a sharpened wooden stick doesn't seem impressive. Compared to the claws of a lion or the jaws of a crocodile, it looks almost useless. But that ordinary-looking weapon changed human history forever. Before the spear, humans had to get dangerously close to any threat. Every hunt was a gamble, and every fight could end in death. The spear changed the rules. It allowed people to keep distance between themselves and danger. For the first time, humans didn't need to be stronger than the animal. They only needed to work together. Imagine a hungry saber-toothed cat watching a group of early humans. One person alone would have been an easy target, but a circle of people, all holding long spears pointed toward the predator, looked completely different. Even the strongest hunter in nature doesn't want unnecessary injuries. A broken leg means starvation. A deep wound can become a death sentence. Predators survive because they choose the safest meal, not the bravest fight. This is something many people don't realize. Lions don't attack every animal they see. Wolves don't charge into every battle. Even the deadliest hunters carefully calculate risk. Early humans slowly learned to use that fear against them. Instead of running in panic, they stood together. Instead of scattering, they formed a wall of spears. Sometimes they shouted as loudly as possible. Sometimes they threw rocks. Sometimes they waved burning branches. The goal wasn't always to kill the predator. It was to convince it that attacking wasn't worth the risk. And surprisingly, that strategy often worked. But weapons alone still weren't enough. The real advantage wasn't the spear. It was the mind holding it. Humans could plan. They could remember. They could imagine tomorrow before it arrived. If a river contained crocodiles, they remembered. If a cave belonged to bears, they avoided it. If wolves hunted at night, they changed when they traveled. Every generation became slightly smarter than the one before because knowledge didn't disappear. When someone died, it stayed with the group. This ability to learn from the past became humanity's invisible bodyguard. Then came another discovery that transformed everything. Fire. To us, fire is normal. We cook with it. We heat our homes with it. We light candles without thinking twice. But to ancient humans, fire was almost magical. Most wild animals fear flames. A burning campfire created a safe space in a world filled with darkness. At night, when predators silently moved through the forests, humans gathered around the fire. Its light made surprise attacks more difficult. Its smoke kept some dangerous animals away. Its warmth allowed people to survive colder climates. And while the fire burned, families talked. They shared stories. They taught children. They planned future hunts. Without realizing it, they were building something even more powerful than weapons. They were building trust. And trust became the greatest protection humans ever created. Because when danger appeared, nobody had to face it alone. Every member of the group knew someone would help. Someone would shout. Someone would throw a spear. Someone would pull them to safety. That invisible promise made humans stronger than any single individual could ever become. Ironically, the first humans never had bodyguards. Because in a way, everyone was each other's bodyguard. But if humans became so good at protecting one another, why did they later build armies, castles, royal guards, and personal bodyguards? The answer lies in the moment when the greatest threat to humans was no longer wild animals. It was other humans. As human populations slowly grew, the world began to change in a way no one could have predicted. For thousands of years, nature had been humanity's greatest enemy. Predators, harsh weather, disease, and hunger decided who lived and who died. But as people became better hunters, built stronger shelters, and mastered fire, those dangers slowly became easier to manage. A new threat quietly took their place. Another human. At first, different groups rarely met. The world was enormous, and people were spread across vast forests, grasslands, and mountains. But over time, groups began crossing the same rivers, hunting the same animals, and searching for the same food. When resources were plentiful, they could simply walk away. But when food became scarce, walking away wasn't always an option. Archaeologists have found ancient skeletons with healed skull fractures, broken bones caused by weapons, and spear points lodged inside human remains. These discoveries suggest that conflict between human groups is far older than most people imagine. For the first time, humans faced an opponent who could think exactly like they did. Animals attacked because they were hungry. Humans could attack because they wanted land, food, revenge, or power. That made them far more unpredictable. Groups became larger. Leaders began to emerge. The strongest fighter wasn't always the leader. Often, it was the person who could make the smartest decisions during dangerous situations. People naturally followed those who helped the group survive. As villages appeared, protecting a single person suddenly became much more important. If a skilled leader died, the entire community could fall apart. Without realizing it, humanity had taken its first step toward creating what we now call a bodyguard. not a professional guard wearing armor, but trusted warriors whose job was to stay close to important people during danger. As centuries passed, villages became towns. Towns became kingdoms. Kingdoms became empires. The more powerful a ruler became, the more enemies they attracted. A king owned treasure. He controlled armies. He made laws. If someone wanted power, removing the king became the fastest path. That is why ancient rulers rarely traveled alone. Some were surrounded by elite warriors, chosen for their loyalty, rather than their strength alone. These men trained every day. They slept near the ruler. They ate with the ruler. Sometimes they were willing to die without hesitation to keep their leader alive. This was completely different from the first humans. Back then, everyone protected everyone. Now, only a small group protected one important person. History had come full circle. The idea of protection never disappeared. It simply evolved. From families, to tribes, to elite guards, to the highly trained security teams we see today. But here's something fascinating. Even with modern technology and professional bodyguards, humans still rely on the same survival instinct that kept our ancestors alive hundreds of thousands of years ago. When danger appears, we don't want to face it alone. We immediately look for other people. Because deep inside our brains, the ancient instinct of surviving together never disappeared. It has been with us since the very beginning. And that may be the greatest bodyguard humanity has ever had. When you hear the word bodyguard, you probably imagine someone wearing a suit, carrying advanced equipment, standing beside a president, a celebrity, or a billionaire. But if you traveled back hundreds of thousands of years, you wouldn't find anything like that. There were no security teams, no armored vehicles, no emergency phone calls, no safe houses. The only thing standing between a human and death was the person beside them. That simple truth may have changed the course of human history. Think about it. If early humans had tried to survive alone, our species might never have made it this far. A single person couldn't watch every direction at once. One pair of eyes couldn't stay awake all night. One hunter couldn't always bring back enough food. One injured person had almost no chance of surviving without help. But together, everything changed. Someone gathered food while another watched for predators. Someone carried a child while others searched for water. Someone treated injuries using whatever knowledge the group had discovered. Every member increased the chances that everyone else would survive. This ability to cooperate became humanity's greatest superpower. Not sharper teeth, not stronger muscles, not faster legs. Cooperation. Scientists believe this is one of the biggest reasons humans spread. Freezing mountains to burning deserts. From dense forests to open grasslands. Humans adapted because they shared ideas. When one person learned something useful, the whole group became stronger. When one generation made a discovery, the next generation didn't have to start from the beginning. Knowledge became humanity's invisible shield. That shield grew stronger with every generation. Eventually, humans invented farming. Permanent villages appeared. Cities followed. Kingdoms rose. Then came armies, castles, royal guards, police forces, and modern security systems. Everything we call protection today can be traced back to one simple idea that existed long before civilization itself. People protect each other. In a strange way, every modern bodyguard is continuing a job that began hundreds of thousands of years ago. The tools have changed. The clothing has changed. The training has changed. But the purpose remains exactly the same: to stand between danger and another human being. So, who protected the first humans? Not kings, not soldiers, not bodyguards. They were protected by their families, by their friends, by their tribes, by their intelligence, by fire, by simple wooden spears, and most importantly, by their ability to trust one another. Without those things, humanity might have disappeared long before history was ever written. The next time you see a security guard protecting an important person, remember that this idea didn't begin in a palace or a government building. It began around a small campfire, where frightened humans stood shoulder to shoulder against a world that seemed determined to destroy them. That was the first line of defense. And perhaps, the first bodyguards in history were never hired at all. They were simply ordinary people protecting the ones they cared about. If you enjoyed discovering how the first humans survived without bodyguards, subscribe for more documentaries that uncover the hidden stories of our past. Because sometimes, the biggest mysteries in history are hiding in the simplest questions.